carried.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the March 15th meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the Town of Ossining. My name is Sal Carrera, Chairman, and joining me this evening are members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, Town Attorney, Building Inspector, our Secretary, and we have one meeting this evening. I'd like to have everybody for the record introduce themselves.
Sandy Anelli, Secretary.
David O'Neill, member.
John Hamilton, Building Inspector.
David Krieger, member.
Christy Adana, attorney.
Thank you.
I think Tom's having trouble with his mic. You're muted. You're muted, Tom.
You're on now, Tom? You have him shut off, Sandy.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
Tom
you're on?
Wills.
Tom Wills. Okay, thank you, Tom. Before we start this evening, I'd like to take a moment to remember those that have died of the coronavirus, their family and friends, and especially all of the frontline workers. If we could just give a moment of silence. Thank you. We have one hearing this evening. I will read the public notice and then request the applicant or the representatives to give a brief explanation of the relief sought. Anyone that has a comment should notify us and state their name and address. After the comments are received, the board will try to render a decision this evening. For the record, one member of our board is not on yet, and he may or may not make it by 8 o'clock. So I'd like to know from the applicant or its representatives if it's okay with you to go with the number of board members currently online, other than
that's fine.
dismissing it.
Yes, we'd like to proceed, please.
Okay, thank you. Notice of a public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing of the Town of Ossining Zoning Board of Appeals will be held on March 15, 2021 on the application of Terra Rustica Restaurant, 550 North State Road, Briarcliff Manor, New York. All persons are invited to join the meeting by using the link. This meeting will be held via video conference pursuant to Governor's Executive Order 202.1 dated March 12, 2020. The applicant is seeking a variance from the terms of the zoning code of the Town of Ossining, Article 4, Bulk Regulations, Section 200-23, General Business District, in order to expand an existing outdoor deck. The proposed construction will result in a front yard setback of 25.1 inches where 25.1 feet where 30 are required. The property is owned by 550 North State Road, LLC, 1 New King Street, Suite 201, West Harrison, New York, 10604, located within the unincorporated area of the Town of Ossining in the General Business Zoning District, and is identified on the tax map of the Town of Ossining as Section 90.15, Block 2, Section 8. Application materials and plans titled New Covered Deck for 550 North State Road, Briarcliff Manor, New York, prepared by Damasi Architects, PC, dated January 21st, 2021, with latest revisions February 8, 2021, are on file with the Town of Ossining Building Department and can be viewed in person, by appointment, or online at www.townofossining.com, CMS, Publications, All Documents, Zoning Board Projects. All interested persons are invited to attend the public hearing to be held on this matter. Please contact our office at 914-762-8419 if you have any questions. If you need assistance with the Zoom meeting process or need assistance with the town website, you can email written comments to the Building Department, the Town of Ossining. By order of the Zoning Board of Appeals, Sal Carrera, Chairman, dated March 5th, 2021. Sandy, for the record, I want it noted that I did request authorization from the owner to have the applicant proceed with this application on their behalf since they own it, and I have a copy of it, which I sent to you for the file.
We have that on file. That's on file, yes.
Thank you. So I'd like to open it up to the representatives for Terra Rustica to give us a brief explanation of the requirement, and then we'll go from there.
Just before you begin, we do have a full complement of the
Yep,
board.
there we go. Manny, thank you for making it.
Yeah, I made it. Just no traffic. So
Good for you. Okay,
All right, good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Corey Salamone. I'm the attorney for the applicant. Here with me this evening is Lou DeMacy of DeMacy Architecture. And so just a little background about the property. Terra Rustica is located at 550 North Street. The property is approximately 1.1 acres and located in the GB zoning district. The site's currently improved with a 4,300 square foot building and with a 620 square foot deck. There's 55 parking spaces, and the site has been occupied by Terra Rustica since 1999. So as the chair read in the notice, the proposal is just to put a roof over the existing 620 square foot deck and expand the size by 380 square feet. So it'll be a total of 1,000 square feet. Perfect, Lou. Great there. And so as you can see by the orientation of the building, we're not perfectly parallel with North State Road. So the majority of the deck is compliant with the 30-foot setback requirement in the GB zoning district. However, there's a small corner that's like the northeastern corner of the deck that does encroach. Again, at that point, it's set back 25.1 feet. So we're looking for front yard setback variance of 4.9 feet. That's respectfully submitted that, you know, there won't be any change in the character of the community due to the granting of this variance should your board determine to grant it, and there will be a great benefit to the applicant. We've appeared before the planning board on 2 occasions, February 3rd, February 17th. And as we've explained at that meeting, what's really driving the desire to cover the deck and expand it is, you know, the pandemic. Even when we come out of this, people are going to want to be spaced, you know, further apart at restaurants. And so right now with the current size of the deck, we have 30 seats out there. And even with the expansion, we're just going to maintain 30 seats. The only purpose, again, is to cover it so he could use it for longer periods throughout the year and to be able to spread the tables apart for more appropriate social distancing. So a pretty straightforward application. And so with that, we will open it up to any questions or concerns that you may have.
thank you. For fellow board members, as we move forward and ask questions and then open it to the public also, the criteria for an area variance, which we have to take into consideration before voting, is whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties will be created by granting of the area variance, whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than area variance, whether the requested area variance is substantial, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. This factor is relevant to the decision, but the fact that the difficulty was self-created does not preclude granting of the area variance. Me personally, I've lived here for 47 years. I know the site intimately, and I understand the area where the deck wants to be increased, and there's a major outcropping there. And I could understand where it's not, you know, even in level with the rest of the site. So a little less than the 5 foot, I could understand what the requirement is. I really have, I think it's a straightforward application. I'll leave it up to my other board members and then open up the public to get some additional comments, if any. Gentlemen?
So likewise, I think I have a good handle on the kind of site conditions and, you know, what exists now is, you know, having been there and been out on the deck. So maybe you could just maybe clarify what is kind of governing the length of the deck. Is that where the posts will come down relative to the parking, or is there something else that's dictating the length of the deck?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So yeah, basically where the ends of the patio doors are, that's where the deck is going to be ending. And it just coincided to work with the spacing of the parking spaces, because I want the columns to fall in between each parking space so we don't lose any parking spaces.
Right. Okay. And then could you also describe maybe just a little bit what the covering over the deck is like? Is that a
Yeah, I'm going to share with you.
pitched roof or
Yeah.
something else?
Yep, I'm going to try to share with you a rendering, if I may. Let me just see how I get there. So did that come up, the rendering?
No.
Not
No,
not
it's
yet.
kind of a black screen now, though. There you go.
Okay,
Okay, great.
So right here is the last patio door, so that's where the covered part of the porch is going to end. And what you're going to see is a slanted roof, which is going to be asphalt. These columns coincide with each of the parking spaces in between them. And, you know, we're looking to have it kind of open and airy. So I'm thinking of a metal railing that's, or cable railing that's kind of see-through. So it looks more or less like a deck, you know, just covered.
So Lou, the entire deck is going to be roofed.
Yes, up to the part where there's a walkway, which we don't really need the variance for, but I just want to show you, this is going to connect back to the parking lot, this part of the deck here. So that part's not going to be covered, but it's not coming out as far as the existing deck is now. It's just a walkway.
Is there an egress on the, I'm sorry, is there an egress on the other side of the deck?
There is, but it's not for the public. It's for the wait staff to go back and forth to the kitchen part that's in the back there.
Okay.
So it's not going to be accessed from the public now. But that is to remain, though. It does connect back to the parking lot.
Thanks. This is very useful to see this image. So I don't really have any other additional questions.
thank you. Anybody else on the board? Open it up to the public. Any comments from the public?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, my name is Vera Albrecht. I live at 552 North State Road. My house is literally behind the restaurant where the tent is. Okay, we're 50 feet from the tent. Now, they building this structure in the front, are they getting rid of the tent?
my understanding is that it would happen with regards to it, unless, God forbid, there's another COVID, and which the local governments and the state has authorized additional seating for restaurants and parking areas until this COVID epidemic has ceased to exist, and then it will be back open to the parking that was there previously.
Okay, I have a problem with that. First of all, in this paper, the proposal, whatever you said, doesn't have an impact on the neighborhood. It does. It has a very big impact on where I live. Okay. The tent that is there now that he says has 30 people seating, him building that establishment in the front, adding on, you can never take his word for it, because he'll say, oh, I'm doing 30 people. If he makes the deck larger, he's definitely adding more people. He's one you just can't trust. And that's just as a neighbor, I'm telling you, we have had a lot of issues with him. I work from home because of COVID also. So I have issues with that too. I can't even open up my window without hearing the people talking and yelling and screaming. And I can hear the phone conversations that go on, the music that goes on, the lights that go on. It is, when we moved here, I understand it's a restaurant and that's fine, but it was always an indoor restaurant. I understand there's COVID, but at the same time, I'm a citizen. I pay taxes too. I can't enjoy my house, my weekends, because this guy is out there blowing and cleaning and music going, and the lights are shining in my living room all the way to midnight. Now, I've called the cops, and believe me, you can check with them. I have like I don't know, 50 calls to the cops for every little thing that they do. The delivery trucks pull into my driveway. They have cars from the restaurant that pull into my driveway. I have people walking from next door, walking up to my driveway, and it's private property. They shouldn't be doing this. Now you're building and you're extending something out in the front to make it even bigger, to make more noise. No, they have to, and I really honestly want them to take the tent down. It's a privacy of my property that I have. It's an outdoor restaurant. There's now animals that come. I've seen rats before. Something's got to be done. And I really am not looking for them to build this. If they're going to build this, I want the tent down.
My name is Rudy Albrecht. I also live at 552. I'm Mrs. Albrecht's husband. Living here, we have a reasonable expectation, I would assume, of having some privacy, some cordiality, some quietness. I work 5-6 days a week. I'm home 1, maybe 2 days a weekend. I can't go outside on a Saturday. They're blowing. Can't go out on a Sunday. They have dinner. They have breakfast. It goes crazy. And it goes through till midnight and then some. Lights are on all the time. The lights out in the parking lot. I know they need security, but why does it have to shine into my front window? It's crazy. People go to the restaurant. They have a good time. They drink. Some people get inebriated. They carry their arguments out in the parking lot. I can't sit in my living room without having somebody arguing in the restaurant. You know, everybody comes and goes, has a good time, but they go home. The people that work in the restaurant, they have their work. Fine. I applaud it and I welcome it. But they go home. There's no vested interest in anything here except making money in the restaurant. As a neighbor, they have done nothing to try to foster good relations. This last snowstorm, they had a contractor stay the whole night. They didn't leave till 7 o'clock in the morning clearing snow. It's ridiculous. I can't sleep. I wake up one night, midnight, 12:30, go to the bathroom. It looks like playland out in my backyard. This is 50 feet from my front window. It's something, the more latitude these people have, the more reason they take to break the rules. The police laugh because they say it's insane. And the only thing that we can do is keep calling and keep calling and keep calling. Then this guy next door, my wife goes out to get the mail. He makes hand gestures to his ears with his thumbs and like he's flapping wings and he makes yeah, 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 yeah. What kind of a moron does that? This is a good neighbor. I just can't trust anything these people do. It's crazy. It really is. Morning, noon, and night. We bought this place from Gunnar Nielsen was here and he told us, you know, that might not go through. It's going to be a business, a doctor's office, a dental office. It did not happen. Okay. When it was inside, it was tenuous at best. But now that these people operate outside, music till midnight, later, longer. The people that work there, they work in the yard way past the closing times to do whatever it is they do. They make noise. My life has changed and not for the better. I don't know what else to say.
We would just like it to be heard that
crazy.
that they really do not build this structure and that this tent comes down.
Or if it does, if it's allowed to go
then the
through,
tent.
there's got to be a real long, tight oversight on these people. Please.
No, the tent has got to come
Oh,
down.
and the tent too. They got that light out there. It shines right in my living room. Right. Anybody's invited to come here any weekend, any day, and listen to what goes on over there. Come sit in my living room and look outside and you see this bright light shining in my window. The police asked the guy, you know, maybe you can angle it. He said, no. Hey, what is this? It's just.
Okay, in order to, and you haven't had a lot to say, number one, you're in the restaurant is in a general business district. He has every right in a GB zone to make sure his piece of property is maintained, especially in a snowstorm, so no one falls. So I can't, scold him with regards to maintaining his piece of property. It is.
Not at midnight.
Excuse me, let me finish, please.
Let him finish.
The snow removal without getting involved in how much snow we had this year versus last year or previous years. Snow removal companies come when they feel it's necessary. And if they're going to be opening up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning and everything has to be cleaned, sand, and salted, that's his responsibility. And if it wasn't, okay, he wouldn't be able to open for business. With regards to him mowing and blowing, and I've seen it because I live on Ryder Avenue and I go exercise across the street, and yeah, they maintain the property as best as they can, whether he does it or he brings in an outside contractor. With regards to the tent is a temporary installation due to COVID. Most restaurants throughout all of New York State are either taking over parking lots and or private streets or public streets and made it into a private dining area to help these restaurateurs survive during this time. So once COVID is finished and the state says no more outdoor dining in areas, okay, especially in a tent, that tent will come down. That deck has always been there. I've lived here for 47 years. There's been a restaurant, for as long as I remember. And every other restaurant down along North State Road has outdoor dining, okay, with or without a tent, whether it's covered or not. It is, a fact of life that North State Road is a general business area. With regards to calling the police, you have every right to go do that if there's a legitimate complaint and let them, take care of it. The Zoning Board of Appeals does not make a decision on violations that may or may not occur. We have to follow, and we're not the enforcement, arm of the town of Ossining. We base our decisions on the criteria for a variance, and that's what we have to make a decision on this evening. Any other comments from the public?
Yes. My name is Sabrina. I live at 11 Hillcrest Avenue, Ossining, New York. I have a couple of just questions in general as far as the actual structure itself. Typically, when you have a roof structure, you're going to have an echoing of noise. So even though it's considered the front and the side of the restaurant, however you want to position it, there is going to be an increase in the amount of noise that is already there. Am I incorrect in understanding that? There's going to be a projection, there's going to be even more noise than there currently is?
I'm not an acoustic individual. Lou, maybe you could answer that as an architect?
I have one thing to say.
Yeah, so the ceiling is going to be made of a wood type that's going to help absorb the sound. So there's not going to be anything that reflects, because that's what creates the sound is reflection. So as long as we don't have hard surfaces like stone or stucco, it's going to help to absorb the sound. So we're planning on putting a cedar material that's going to help to absorb the sound.
Plus the sound is going to be projected towards the street more often than towards the back. I understand your house is behind or beside the structure.
Yeah, Hillcrest is behind.
Yeah, so there won't be additional noise coming from the restaurant from the back. I mean,
Hillcrest is nowhere near North
Hillcrest
State
is
Road.
nowhere near the restaurant.
That's how much you guys know.
My other question is regarding vermin. So if you're going to have an increase in the amount of people that are outside, what about the increase in number of rats and mice, things like that?
And there are.
We're not going to have an increase in the number of people outside.
Yeah.
How do you plan to control that, I guess is my question.
By having the building inspector, who's also the code enforcement official, monitoring it. If there's a problem, all you have to do is call us and we will check. We've not received any complaints from anyone regarding overcrowding, not a one.
John, is the number of people on the existing terrace covered by a certificate of occupancy?
Yes, it is.
And you're only adding 300 square feet, right? From an existing 600.
Correct. It's existing 620 and we're adding 380.
So you're adding 30 seats to the front of the deck, 30 people to the front of the deck, and 30 that are in the tent?
This application has nothing to do with the tent. We're focused on the deck that currently can seat 30 people. And when we're done it'll still have 30 seats on the deck.
Let me jump in here, please. The tent is a temporary structure due to COVID restrictions. The town passed an ordinance allowing the tents during this time. When this is approved, then more than likely the tents come down. And there'll be no increase in the capacity on the deck.
They cited on their original paper that they're doing this because of the pandemic. That was one of the reasons why they wanted the 1,000 square foot, because to be a more appropriate distancing between the tables for this pandemic. So you're going to add the 300, so it'll make it 1,000, and you'll still have the tent for however long somebody might deem it necessary that the law will allow them to take the tent down. Correct?
No, that's not an accurate statement. Once we get all this together and the COVID issue is over, the tent would be removed.
But until then, but that's what I'm saying. I'm alluding to that this thing can go on for many, many months, and you'll still have the tent and the new deck.
But you won't have an increase in capacity. You will not have more people, whether the deck is enlarged or not. The same number of people are going to be out there.
So why are they extending then the deck in the front if you're not going to have more people? They have the tables out there.
To provide more distancing between the tables.
Well, that's why you have the tent, correct?
Yeah.
The tent is not permanent. People coming out of a pandemic are by nature going to want to have more distance between themselves and the people sitting at the
But
next
you
table.
started your proposal that the deck is needed to be done because of the pandemic. But if you have the tent, then you don't need the weight on the space on the deck, correct?
Again,
It's just whenever we seem to go to a board meeting and we seem to go over anything, exactly like the Zappies, where they were supposed to build a fence, and we were told by the board meeting and everything, oh, a fence is going up and everything else, and nothing ever got done.
All the promises you
pay
made as a
taxes,
good neighbor never came
We're
about.
a good neighbor and everything, and nothing ever follows through. It's always, the restaurant's gonna get what they want. We're gonna live miserable again. No matter what we do to call, to be on a board meeting, to complain about something,
Nobody listens.
nobody seems to listen. So why is there even a board meeting?
To
Since
ask
your
our
minds
opinion.
are already made up that you're gonna have this thing built and it's gonna be passed.
You know, you put in your proposal that it's, you want to make a healthy safety and welfare of the neighborhood is
But
taken
you're
into
not.
consideration.
You're not taking us
but
into consideration. We're the only neighbor, unfortunately, that's facing by the restaurant. And not once have you guys ever
And
considered
the zoning
something on
board
anything
chairman
that
right now
needs
just tells us
complained.
he's been here 47 years. I've been here 37
Yeah.
years.
So you should know that.
He's not subject to what we go through. And he
You're not
sits there
here.
and he's already it seems like he's already made up his mind. And there's
Yeah.
no reason not to allow this to happen. But yet, look into the people that are behind it. It's not so much the structure, it's the people that are utilizing the structure.
Right.
They're making life miserable for us.
And obviously, that doesn't seem to matter for you people because you're there just to pass a law to say, okay, let's pass it and that's
Maybe
it.
generate a few more tax dollars. I
Yeah.
understand that. That's business. But doesn't matter if it's on somebody else's back, does it?
Any other comments from the audience?
Yeah, I mean, the person, well, I just wanted to clarify. I understand the gripes or the concerns of the Vilbrands, but the zoning meeting is just to discuss, the 5-foot set encroachment on the 30-foot setback.
But then why put it in this meeting that it's taking into consideration the welfare of the neighborhood?
You write that in the paper.
You write that on the paper.
It's the
considering it.
criteria.
Standards for granting a variance.
Can I please interrupt? Okay.
Sure.
There are 5 statutory criteria that have to be considered. It is whether the requested variance will have an adverse effect on the character of the neighborhood. So what they're looking at, the zoning board, is the variance that's encroaching 5 feet into the front of the property in order to allow this deck to be enlarged for the purpose of spacing out the seating. That's what we're looking at right here.
And I understand that.
Everything else is illegal construction as far as the code requirements are. So it's only.
I'm just making it known because it was said in this proposal about they want to take the consideration of the neighborhood.
The healthy,
and the
safety,
health
and welfare
and the
of the
benefit
neighborhood.
of it. But
That's
we
the
have a voice
statutory
too. We should be
criteria.
able to say.
That's the statutory criteria that is related specifically to the variance being requested.
Okay,
All right, so
so does it have any bearing on this, what we have to say?
I mean, the applicant can certainly respond and take it under consideration. The board could consider putting some conditions on the variance if they wanted to make
If
sure.
you could, I would ask that that be done, because I would invite anybody to come and spend some time next door. Like I said, we have a reasonable expectation. We bought this place knowing it was a restaurant. And when it was inside, it was contained. It was somewhat tenuous, but the parking was horrendous. But there was no problem with the outdoor. Yes, the pandemic has hit the restaurant and they're suffering. But we too, my wife has to work
I
from
have to work
home.
too, and I gotta listen
We
to
can't
this.
stay here at times. It's ridiculous. We invited our pastor from church to have dinner with us one morning, Saturday morning. They next door, they go with the blower. We had a dust storm. We're sitting at our dining table outside. You know, what is this? And every time we call the cops, you know, the guy in the restaurant says, "Oh, the cops are with us. They know us. They like us better than you." I don't have to hear this. It's ridiculous. And then, you know, it's just always an argument. I try to be a good neighbor. Everybody in this neighborhood knows us. We are good neighbors. We help the community. We're PTA chairman people. You know, our kids went through the school. We live here. It's very important. The people come and rest. I don't have to listen to some lady getting drunk and having to yell at her on the other end of the phone 45, 50 feet from my window. There's got to be some hold, some guidance for these people. Some, I don't know, some rules and regulations that they can follow and try to be a good neighbor. It just never happens.
The criteria here, and it is something that this zoning board cannot fix, is that the restaurant is allowed to be there. They are allowed to maintain their piece of property. They're allowed to mow, blow, snow blow.
By rules.
And let me finish, please. And due to the fact that they are going to be adding a number of feet in the front of the building that faces North State Road, the criteria that this board has to follow for an area variance is specific. I understand your complaints with regards to noise, but it is a restaurant. I understand about snow removal and lawn mowing. Yeah, I live on Ryder Avenue, and the car wash on North State Road, which is a general business area, and my house is in a residential. I hear every car that's washed, every blowing of the car, every wheel that's cleaned, and there's nothing I could do about it. It is a business. So I understand what you're saying. And my neighbor who lives across the street that's right adjacent to the car wash, he lives in agony 365 days a year, 7 days a week, because it is a general business area. And there's nothing that we can do to prevent that man from having a car wash. Just like general business, he's allowed to have a restaurant there. He's allowed to be open at certain hours, and he's allowed to maintain his piece of property.
Okay, can I just say something why you just said that about where you live? I know where you live and I know where the car wash is. And I know, okay, fine, you might hear the noise, but you don't hear it at 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. This restaurant stays open. And wait a minute, let me finish. And this is a law, they are not allowed to blow into 8 o'clock in the morning. They are not allowed to blow into whatever time it was, 5 o'clock at night or whatever. Then they're supposed to stop, and they don't. And they blow at night, and they're on the roof at night and everything else. And that's why we call the cops. So
And you have every right to do that.
Okay,
The zoning
but
board
you're
does
saying-
not get involved
I
in
understand that.
infractions.
I understand that, but you're saying, I hear the noise, from the car wash and everything, but you don't hear the noise when you're sleeping, okay? So now you're inviting a large group of more people. That's going to happen. And I know your decision is made, and I'm very upset about it. And I just feel that the board does absolutely nothing anymore for anybody else that's in the, I can't speak for anybody else because we live right by the
So let
neighborhood.
us ask you, where do
What?
we go in order to have our concerns addressed?
Yeah, can't go to Dana. She doesn't do anything.
She
She
doesn't
doesn't
return
return.
calls.
Excuse me, okay, we're getting off, okay, the beaten track here with regards to this
Yes, I know.
application. If you have problems with the town, or with Dana, or with the building inspector, or with the police department, there are ways of taking care of that. Has nothing to do with the zoning board of appeals.
Yeah,
So,
I know.
in that reference, we'll make a decision this evening, as soon as we close the public hearing, if there's no one else here to say anything. And to be honest with you, is that what they intend to do, which I think everybody is missing, and what attorney has spoken about it, is that the same number of people that are on the deck now are going to be the same number of people as the deck is enlarged
I want that in
because of the
writing.
COVID. And I think that's the right thing to do with regards to social distancing. It's not that he's adding 300 or 400 additional feet to get additional people into the restaurant or outside, because as Mr. Hamilton has said, there are only a certain number of people are allowed. And as Mr. Hamilton said also, is that the town granted every restaurant in the town, like every other municipality, to take over areas, okay, for a temporary period of time during COVID, so that they would be able to survive, other than having them go out of business and it becomes a zombie building with no one being in it. So that being said, if there's any other people in the audience that would like to give any comments, I'm open.
I'd like to make sure that's in writing, though, that they're not allowed to add any more seats to what is there.
It's per
Because
the
if-
CO of the building, Mr. Hamilton, is that correct?
It's already on the plan. If you look at the plan, you'll see the capacity and it shows the loads. They cannot deviate once the zone.
Okay, I understand that. I want to make sure that happens because they're not to be trusted. So they will change it. And then when I do come to the board to tell them that he's doing something different, then what are you going to do for me?
Mr. Hamilton will then take it under his direction to do what he has to do.
Do
Yeah,
not talk to the
okay,
board.
let's see. I hope so.
You don't talk to the board. If you feel there's an overcrowding issue, I will go out there. If it's valid, I will act on it. If it's not valid, I will deem it to be invalid.
Didn't happen to Zappies, but okay.
Oh, don't even start that, because we already know you had a long conversation with me about Mr. Zappi and he did nothing wrong and I showed it to you.
No, you did not show it to me.
This is beyond the scope of what we're here to discuss, and I'm going to have to insist we stay on topic.
All right, I'd like to take a vote, a motion to close the public hearing.
Anything?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
Tom, thank you.
Second.
With regards to this variance, I'd like to take a vote with regards to all in favor of granting it.
Oh, hold it. Sal, I do have a question as a board member. There's one question. I didn't know if I got it. The question really is, and I think John can clarify it. It influences my decision, is once the roof is completed, can the owners make that into a covered, put plastic around it? Is that okay?
They're not, it's just going to be a roof. It's not going to be enclosed at all.
Yeah, it's not going to be enclosed. If this was to become enclosed, they'd have to go to the planning board for a site plan approval.
But the
Even though
portion that's
just-
not impacted by the variance, can that be enclosed at a future date? Or just the
Without a-
piece?
That's
without a-
what, thank you.
Nothing can
Thank
be
you,
done
Dave. That's
out
what I'm trying to ask.
without a planning board site plan revision.
Even if, John, I don't want to pick on it, but even though it's this new plastic temporary, would that have to be approved too?
The
For
only,
like winter use?
the only.
I just don't know.
The only reason any of this outside dining is in effect right now is because they passed the emergency COVID measure. Once this goes away, that's the end of it. If they want to do something to enclose something, they have to go to the planning board for a site plan revision and see where they go from there.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Okay, may I take a vote with regards to who's in favor of granting this variance? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any member against it? None. Let the record show, Sandy, that it's unanimous at the granting of this variance, and move forward with the building inspector to get the building permit. And John, just watch what goes on.
We handle any complaint that's given to us. If it's valid, we act on it.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you,
for your
sir.
time. Really appreciate you.
Take care. Good night.
Good night.